We dim Mavs. The Dallas Mavericks take down the Los Angeles Clippers 123-93 on Wednesday night. Closeout game. Tonight is a closeout game. Mavericks in 6. I don't care about jinxing it. There's no jinxing this Dallas Mavericks team. That's a huge lie. We've seen that happen plenty of times. Anyways, ahead of tonight's matchup, I just wanted to talk about some key factors at play in this series that I've noticed over the first several games, but really came to light to me in the 5th game that, I've heard several people talk about at this point and this far in, but I just wanted to really stress. Everyone that has watched my channel at all probably knows my intense love for PJ Washington, how much value I believe he brings to the Dallas Mavericks organization as a whole. But another guy in a quite similar vein to PJ Washington as a long, lengthy, athletic defender, Derrick Jones Jr. on, I believe, a minimum contract, has been our 3rd best player this series. Has Derrick Jones Jr. been our 3rd best player this series? In 29 minutes on Wednesday night, Derrick Jones had 12 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 blocks. He went 5 of 7 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. A hyper-efficient game from Derrick Jones and a very, very good defensive outing for Derrick Jones Jr. I am absolutely loving what he is bringing on both ends of the court. When he's driving off of closeouts, whether he's cutting back door, whether he's getting out in transition, on offense, Derrick Jones has been a huge athletic spark that the Mavericks had clearly needed before this season. And throughout the season, of course, I was singing Derrick Jones' praise throughout the season for the most part. Before the season, when we signed him, I had told all of my friends that aren't like super locked into the NBA that this guy's a high flyer, a super athletic guy, a great lengthy defender. He just struggles to stretch the floor, and he can't really do a whole lot on offense. He can kind of stall the offense a bit. And this season, he's shown that he can play off of Luka so well, and that's not always just shooting threes. Whether or not he's driving off of closeouts, dishing it, just moving the ball even off of the initial action, he's been a good connector. He obviously has still had moments where he's shooting pretty poorly and it's kind of hurting the offense, so Jason Kidd will go to a different option. During the regular season, that was Exum or Tim. They've both shown that, Tim is injured and Exum has been quite disappointing in the playoffs so far, and Derrick Jones has really been the main option there. Obviously there's Josh Green too, and Josh Green has also had some really good performances in the playoffs so far. That the and-1-3, whenever the Clippers were kind of closing the gap a little bit, I think it was down to a 16-point game, Josh Green out of nowhere hits an and-1-3, finishes it with the free throw, back up 20, and continues the Dallas Mavericks run to keep pushing that lead up to 30. Great showing from him, but man, Derrick Jones, fantastic for the Dallas Mavericks. The reason that I had lost confidence in Derrick Jones going into the series was not because I didn't think he could do what he's doing on defense. We all know what Derrick Jones can do on defense. On the offensive end, one of the games he just wasn't hitting threes. I had listened to a podcast talking about long, lengthy defenders that can't stretch the floor. And long story short, I had lost a lot of faith in Derrick Jones for the playoffs specifically because of that. It wasn't that I didn't believe he could still be impactful. It was just I knew I had seen how the Mavericks offense could struggle a little bit, in that our defense was still winning games, but in the playoffs I just didn't think that was going to work, at least to the same extent it was in the regular season. He has just completely proved me wrong. Yeah, the volume on his 3-point attempts has still not gone up, but he's been extremely impactful on both ends of the floor. He's been our 4th and 5th leading scoring option almost every game this series, and he hasn't played an insane amount of minutes every game. He's played around 30 in most of them, but I believe in game 3 he had 25 minutes. Still in his role, he has been so good. Maxi Kleber was an absolute star on Wednesday night. 15 points. He was 5 of 7 from 3. So I believe now on the series he's shooting 60% from 3. He's shooting an insane percentage from 3, and historically Maxi has always shot well from 3 in the playoffs. He's a 40% 3-point shooter in the playoffs for his career so far, and he's just showing that he can even improve on that. Maxi, 15 points, 5 of 7 from 3 in 19 minutes. He had such a big impact. And the best part about that, if Maxi goes 0 for 7, the Mavericks still win this game. That's insane. Luka Doncic finally has I don't want to say insanely more impressive. It's not even that much more impressive of a performance than his other games, but he was just more efficient from the field and ended with 35, 7, and 10 instead of 29, 10, and 10. Ooh, Luka's comeback game. I don't know really what that weird narrative is about Luka having horrible performances. Like, yeah, he has not shot well this series at all, but he's still been the best player for the Mavericks pretty much every single game. You could say, was it game 4 that Kyrie had 38? Sure, Kyrie could have been the best player in that game, but pretty much throughout the series, Luka has been the best player on both teams. It's just wild that his shooting percentage going down and him not hitting his threes has meant that he has been horrible this series and that the Clippers have figured him out and locked him up. Like, no, this man is clearly not well right now. Luka's dealing with a knee injury, clearly been sick. He's not been normal at all, and he's still putting up triple doubles in the playoffs. Like, can we get real quick? That man is not human. And people need to stop joking around and acting as if they understand that a team could possibly figure this guy out. No, he figured himself out by getting sick, and that's the end of the story. Well, going into tonight, as long as the Dallas Mavericks play their game, that's an easy closeout game. I know people have told me that I've been way too irrationally confident about this series, because from the beginning I said it Mavs in 5 or 6. I initially said 5 until we had games where we scored 8 points in a quarter. So I switched that to 6. The real reason that I'm so confident in the Mavericks in this series is shooting variance, because in the 2 games that the Dallas Mavericks, or the 3 games the Mavericks have won, they still have not even shot their season average from 3. And to me, that's a pretty big sign moving forward, because there just has to be a playoff game where the Mavericks shoot at least their average, if not above their average, as does every other team in the league. So the Clippers, in the 2 games they won, shot over 20 attempts on 50% and 62% from 3. That's not going to happen a lot, okay? Those two shooting performances, 2 of 5 performances throughout the entire playoffs so far where teams have shot, was it 10% or more of their season average on 3? So on 20 attempts, specifically that. They've had 2 of the best shooting performances in the entire, 2 of the 5 best shooting performances from the entire playoffs this season. That's what it took for them to win the games. And specifically, James Harden and Paul George are both players where shooting variance plays a very pivotal part in how well of a game they end up with at the end of the night, because both of them take a lot of very contested shots, and they're both guys that can hit very contested shots, and they're very talented shot makers. But the thing is, if you don't have a guy like Luka or Kawhi in a series who can get to their spot no matter what, get in the paint no matter what you throw at them, they can do what they want to do, and it's not all just based off of step back, sidestep, contested shot, contested jumper, insane shot making. Because in game 4, when Paul George was hitting all of those threes, Harden was hitting all those threes, that's just not gonna happen. You can't count on that. You can't count on Harden going 6 for 7 from 3, or whatever it was, 6 of 8 from 3. Paul George 7 of 10 from 3. You cannot count on guys hitting ridiculous shots, because the looks they are getting throughout the series, the looks that these guys have been getting have not been good looks. Harden had gotten a couple good looks. I don't know if I saw Paul George get any good looks. They're just hitting insanely tough jumpers. And the Mavericks have kind of figured out that if they leave Terrence Mann and Westbrook open, it's not the end of the world at all. As long as there's somewhat of a closeout where they don't just get a complete practice jumper, those guys are not good shooters. And the Clippers are going to have to rely on Harden and Paul George stepping up and hitting every shot they need to hit. Personally, I don't have my trust in those guys, and that's why my confidence is unwavering for the Dallas Mavericks in this series. Going into tonight, I'm expecting another very good performance, if not Luka's best shooting performance of the series so far. Mavs in 6.